Adding watermarks to your photos in Aperture on export is very easy. And the beauty of it is you can create multiple presets using multiple watermarks and have as many different presets as you like, so you can export for any need. For this presentation, go into the Online Sharing folder and the Online Sharing album inside of that, where you'll find a series of photos that you can use to test your watermark presets. To create a preset, simply go to the Aperture menu and choose from the presets list, Image Export. From here, you'll see a series of image export presets that were provided by Aperture, but of course you can create your own, and that's exactly what we're going to do. To create your own, you simply click on the plus key to duplicate any existing preset, so you can save some time by looking for one that's pretty close to what you're going to want to create. Let's say that I want to make a JPEG preset that's quite large, say 1000 pixels wide. Well, here we have a preset that's 1024 by 1024, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one as my starting point. I'll duplicate that, and then I'm going to rename it, fit within 1000 by 1000, and I'm also going to put at the end of this, watermark, so that I know that this is one of my presets that has a watermark built into it. Let's have a quick look at all the different options in here. We can of course choose our preset to be output at any format from JPEG to PNG to TIFF or PSD. I'm going to stick with JPEG for this. I can also choose to have my image metadata included or not included. I really don't think it's a good idea to export any images without your metadata embedded into it, so I'm going to leave that on. Image quality can be as high or as low as you like. We're going to be putting these on the web, so we'll take it down to about 8 to save a little bit of space in here. Here we have our size controls. You can set it to fit within a certain pixel size, a certain inch or centimeter size. You can also choose to set it as a percentage of the original. For this preset, we're just going to use fit within pixels, and we're going to set it to 1000 by 1000. Now, in case you're wondering, the idea behind creating a width and height that are the same means that regardless of whether I export a landscape or portrait-oriented photograph, it will always have the same maximum dimension, in this case 1000 pixels. DPI is pretty irrelevant when you're exporting for the web, but we'll just leave it at 72. The gamma adjust settings are primarily for print use, so we can ignore those as well. But the one we want to focus on is watermark. The first thing you have to do, of course, is enable Show Watermark. You can choose where your watermark will sit. Will it live in the center of your image, the lower right, lower left, top right, or top left corner? I'm a fan of putting them in the lower left, but of course that's entirely up to you. You can also choose to change the opacity of the watermark that's laid down on your image, from 100%, which means none of your image will show through, down to 0%, which, well, means that your watermark will completely disappear, and anything in between. It's probably a good idea to start at 50%, and then of course you can change it from there as you test. Finally, you need to choose your watermark. By clicking on Choose Image, you can navigate to a watermark file that you've created earlier. PNG is a great format for this because PNG supports transparency and will allow you to do things like add drop shadows to your text or graphics that you're using as a watermark. As you can see, I have a watermark here that reads Copyright 2011, Joseph Lanashki. That's me. The last option here is something called Scale Watermark. This is a curious little effect, and essentially what this does is it allows you to create a watermark at the maximum size of your image. So let's say that your camera shoots photographs that are 5000 pixels wide. You could create a watermark that's 5000 pixels wide as well, and then choose to scale that watermark based on its original size to the size that it actually outputs to. Now, I've found that it's better off to not scale watermarks and simply leave them at their original size, and if you need to have watermarks from very, very small to very, very large, create a couple different versions and use those, instead of trying to use a one-size-fits-all idea. This watermark is about 500 pixels wide, so we're going to use this, which will work perfectly for my 1000 by 1000 pixel image. That's all I need to do. Click OK, and my watermark preset has been created. Now let's test it out. I'm going to take these two photographs, one vertical and one horizontal, and choose to export both of these using my new preset. I simply choose Export Versions, and then from this menu, I can choose my new watermark preset. While you're in here, you can choose where your images will be exported to, and if they're going to go into a subfolder format. For example, if I was exporting a huge batch of images, I may want to put them inside of folders for the project name, or even in an image year, month, day subfolder structure. But for this, I'll just leave it at none, so they'll just be exported directly to the desktop. I can also choose to rename my photos on export. I can leave them as it is, or I can go ahead and create a customized name, and for example, type something in like watermark test, and then because I've chosen the custom name with counter, every image will have that name with a number appended to the end of it. We can choose to show alert when finished or not, which will alert us when the image export is completed. This is handy when you're exporting a very large quantity of files because you can get back to work while Aperture exports in the background, but it'll tell you when it's done. Once you've chosen all your options, simply click on Export Versions. The export is complete, and I can click OK, or in this case I'll go ahead and choose to Reveal in Finder, which will open up a folder in the Finder showing me the two images. Let's select these two and open them up in Preview. As you can see, my watermark has been applied at 50% opacity. It's been applied to both the horizontal and the vertical image. Now these watermarks are a little on the large side, but they're fine for this demo. However, for your own personal watermark, you may choose to make something a bit smaller and a bit more subtle. Let's go back into Aperture and alter the preset to output at 100% opacity so that we don't see anything showing through on that watermark, making it much more visible. Notice I've just changed the same watermark preset, but of course I could have duplicated this and created an alternate version of it. We'll click OK, and once again choose to export these images as versions using that exact same preset. We'll call this one Watermark Test 2 to separate them from the originals. Export versions straight to the desktop, and just a moment later, they're ready to go. There's the two new files that we just created. Let's go ahead and double click those and see how they look. Here, as you can see, the watermark is much more obvious and much stronger on the image. So really it's up to you. How do you want your watermark to look?